Welcome to Propeller Breeze, the show for student pilots, sim fans, and everyone chasing that first solo and beyond. All information in this podcast is for entertainment and general knowledge only. Always verify with certified flight instructors or regulatory authorities before attempting anything mentioned here.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in, doing our run-up checks, and heading up to cruising altitude.
That was good.
Now, if you are currently grinding through your private pilot license, or maybe you're prepping for a check ride and just feeling a little overwhelmed by it all, this one is for you.
It is. But I have to warn you, we are going to talk about physics.
Oh, the P word. I can hear the collective groan through the headphones right now.
I know.
When you're in flight school, you just want to get your hands on the yoke,
Right.
you know? You want to learn how to grease a landing, not memorize formulas?
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and this is what our source material, the Aerodynamic Energy Balance,
Yeah.
really drives home physics, isn't just theory.
Right.
It's basically the operating system of the airplane.
So it's the difference between being a driver of an airplane, just steering it around, and being a pilot who actually gets what the machine is doing.
Precisely. The source argues that we need to shift our mindset from viewing the airplane as just a vehicle to viewing it as an energy system.
An energy system. Okay, that sounds a little, a little engineering heavy. But the more I read through this, the more it just clicked.
Yeah.
It's kind of about money, isn't it? Like a budget?
That is the perfect analogy. Flying is essentially managing a bank account of energy. You have deposits, you have withdrawals, and you have savings.
And if you overspend?
If you overspend your energy budget, gravity comes to collect. And, well, gravity is a very aggressive debt collector.
Okay, so let's unpack the math, but let's try to keep it in the cockpit. We aren't doing chalkboard equations. We're trying to keep a Cessna 172 in the air.
Right, so the core concept here is total mechanical energy.
Total mechanical energy.
The text defines this as a sum. The total energy of your aircraft at any given moment is the combination of just two things: potential energy and kinetic energy.
Potential and kinetic. Okay, I remember these from high school, but let's recontextualize them for the student pilot. Let's start with potential energy. The formula is number dollar.
Right. Mass, gravity, height.
So break that down for us.
Well, mass, dollars, is the airplane itself, the fuel, you, your passengers, everything. Gravity, that constant pull. And another dollar, well, that's your height, your altitude.
So if mass and gravity are, they're relatively constant, right? We burn fuel, so we get lighter, but for any given moment, they're pretty stable.
For a short period, yes.
Then the main variable we're playing with here is a dollar height.
Exactly. In this energy model of flight, altitude is literally stored energy. Think of a climb as putting money in a savings account.
Okay.
You burn fuel. You do work to push that mass up against gravity. Once you are at, say, 5,000 feet, that energy is banked. It's just sitting there waiting.
This is why instructors are always saying altitude is insurance.
It is. If your engine quits, that potential energy, that meska dollars, is what lets you glide. You slowly convert that height back into forward motion.
I want to pause on mass for a second, though. The formula is on dollars. Does that mean a heavier plane actually has more potential energy than a light one at the same altitude?
It absolutely does. A fully loaded Cessna 182 at 5,000 feet has way more joules of stored energy than, say, a light sport aircraft at the same height.
So does that mean it glides further?
Not necessarily further, but it has more momentum. It pushes through the air with more force. This is a common misconception, actually.
Oh,
A
okay.
heavy plane and a light plane, if they have the same airframe, will glide about the same distance. But the heavy plane will do it faster.
Faster.
It has to fly at a higher speed to generate the lift it needs to support that extra mass, that dollar. But it has the energy to do it because the dollars is part of the potential energy equation to begin with.
Got it. So big dollar, big energy bucket. Okay, so that's the savings account. Potential energy is altitude. Now let's talk about the cash in your pocket. Kinetic energy.
Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. The formula the source gives us is $12 milliev 2t26. So 1.5 mass times velocity squared.
There's that dollar again. But the real star of this show is $5. Velocity. Or what we see on the airspeed indicator. Knots.
And this is where the math gets really, really crucial for a pilot. Notice that the velocity is squared.
V squared, meaning if I double my speed, I don't just double my energy.
No, not even close. You quadruple it. This is a concept called energy density. Speed is a much, much denser form of energy storage than altitude.
Can we put some numbers on that? Just rough ones.
Sure. Let's say you're flying at 100 knots.
Yeah.
If you accelerate to 110 knots, that's a 10% increase, right?
Right.
Your kinetic energy goes up by about 21%. But if you're at 1,000 feet and you climb to 1,100 feet, also a 10% increase, your potential energy only goes up by 10%.
Wow. So small changes in airspeed mean these huge swings in your total energy state.
Exactly. And this explains why speed control is so critical, especially on landing. If you come in just 10 knots too fast, you are carrying a massive amount of excess energy that you have to get rid of before you can stop.
That's why you float halfway down the runway.
That's the float. You're trying to bleed off all that extra v-squared energy.
That makes so much sense. So total mechanical energy is just adding these two together. Miller's List $12 MeV 2 fight.
Or, in plain English, your total energy is your altitude plus your airspeed.
It's weirdly simple when you put it like that.
Mm.
We tend to look at the altimeter and the airspeed indicator as two totally separate things.
Mm-hmm.
But this model says they're just two gauges measuring the same fluid, just in different tanks.
And that is the energy management epiphany. You can trade them.
You can trade them.
If you push the nose down, you're pouring energy from the altitude tank into the airspeed tank. You lose height, you gain speed, your total energy is roughly the same, you just moved it.
And if you pull back, you trade speed for height. You pour it back into the altitude tank.
That's a zoom climb.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't added any power, but you're climbing because you're converting that dense kinetic energy back into potential energy.
Okay, but we don't fly in a vacuum. If I could just trade height for speed and back again, I could do roller coasters all day without an engine.
Right, but you can't.
Eventually, I'm going to end up on the ground.
You are. And that brings us to the second major concept in the source text. The airplane as an open system.
Open, meaning the bank account has leaks.
It has leaks and it has deposits.
Mm-hmm.
An open system just means energy can cross the boundary, it can come in, and it can go out.
Let's talk about the out first. The tax. The source says we lose energy to the surrounding air.
That's drag. Pure friction. You are shoving a big metal object through a fluid atmosphere. That costs energy. Every single second you're in the air, drag is draining your total energy account.
Now, I want to dig in here. Because the source says drag, but every student pilot knows drag isn't just one thing. It changes, right?
It does, and this is where energy management gets really tricky. You have two types of drag draining your account. You have parasitic drag, which is just wind resistance. That gets worse the faster you go.
Like sticking your hand out the car window.
Exactly. But then you have induced drag. This is the byproduct of making lift. And this one gets worse the slower you go.
Because to fly slow, you have to pitch the nose up, increase your angle of attack, and that creates more resistance.
You got it. So you have these two thieves stealing your energy. If you fly really fast, parasite drag gets you. If you fly really slow, induced drag gets you.
And somewhere in the middle is the sweet spot.
Best glide speed. It's the point where the total drainage of energy is at its absolute minimum. If your engine quits, you fly at best glide because that stops the leak as much as possible. It gives you the most time to convert your altitude into distance.
So if drag is the output, the withdrawal, then the input has to be the engine.
It's the fuel tank. The source calls fuel chemical potential energy. When you push that throttle forward, you're opening the tap. You're pouring raw energy into the system to counteract the drag.
So level flight, cruising at 5,000 feet at 100 knots, that's just the state where deposits equal withdrawals.
That's a perfect equilibrium. Input from the engine exactly matches the loss to drag. So your altitude, your M and your airspeed, your $12 MeV Theta 2, they just stay constant.
Okay, but what happens when you get behind that curve? I remember my instructor talking about the region of reverse command.
Yes.
It sounds like a sci-fi term, but it's terrifyingly real.
It is, and it's a pure energy problem.
Yeah.
Let's say you get too slow. You're low and slow on approach. Your induced drag is skyrocketing because your nose is so high. The energy leak is massive.
And because you're slow, your controls feel mushy. You don't have enough kinetic energy for them to bite into the air.
Exactly. The trap is your instinct is to pull back to stay in the air. But pulling back increases drag even more. You're just hemorrhaging energy.
So what's the way out?
The only way out is to inject massive amounts of energy full power. Or, and this is scary when you're low, you have to push the nose down.
You have to trade altitude for airspeed.
You have to spend from the savings account to stop the bleeding. And if you're too low to spend any altitude, well, that's a stall spin accident waiting to happen.
This brings up a scenario that I think every student pilot fears. The impossible turn. You take off, you're at 500 feet, engine quits. The instinct is to turn back to the runway. Why is that such an energy disaster?
Let's look at the budget. You have 500 feet of potential energy.
My savings.
And you have, say, 75 knots of kinetic energy. That's your pocket cash. That is your total wealth. The engine is gone, so no more deposits.
You are now a closed system that is leaking badly.
You're a glider. Now to turn back, you have to bank the airplane. When you bank, you lose some vertical lift, so you have to pull back on the yoke to hold altitude.
And pulling back increases drag.
It increases drag. It increases the tax. So now you're draining your energy even faster. Plus, a 180-degree turn takes time, and time equals more drag.
And you probably don't have enough speed to spare anyway.
Most pilots in that scenario, they try to stretch the glide. They keep pulling back. They slow down below best glide speed. Induced drag goes through the roof, and the energy account hits zero while they're still 50 feet in the air, banked over.
And the plane stalls and spins.
Because they tried to write a check their physics didn't have the funds cover.
That is a chilling but really effective way to visualize it. It's not about skill, it's about accounting. You just didn't have the joules.
That's all it is. Energy state awareness is just knowing how much you have in the bank and how fast you're spending it.
So let's bring this to an everyday application. A normal landing.
The landing is just a controlled energy dump. You start at pattern altitude with a lot of potential and kinetic energy. Your goal is to get to the runway threshold with zero potential energy and minimum kinetic energy.
You want to go broke right as the wheels touch down.
Perfectly broke.
Yeah.
So you cut the power stops at the posits, you use flaps, which add drag to increase the rate of withdrawal, and then you manage the descent.
And if you're high and fast on final,
You have too much energy, you need to burn cash.
Mhm.
You can slip, which increases drag, or you just go around. If you try to force it onto the ground with too much energy, it's just going to bounce. It literally has too much energy to stop flying.
and if you're low and slow,
You are bankrupt.
yeah,
You need a cash injection right now. Throttle up.
it really creates a different picture in your head. The throttle isn't a go fast pedal, it's an energy tap. And the yoke is an energy distributor.
That is the golden rule. The throttle controls the total energy of the system. The yoke controls the distribution between height and speed.
I feel like that should be tattooed on every student pilot's arm. Throttle for total, yoke for split.
It would save a lot of confusion. Students so often try to fix an altitude problem with the yoke when they really have an energy problem. If you're level and you want to climb, pulling back will make you go up for a second.
You trade speed for height.
But then you get slow. And then you start to sink. To actually climb, to gain total energy, you need the throttle.
Okay, so before we land this, one more thing. We talked about V squared making speed a really dense storage. Is there a limit to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The airframe itself has limits. This is where we get into structural failure. If you dive to gain speed, you are building up massive kinetic energy. If you hit turbulence, a big gust, that energy has to go somewhere.
It goes into bending the wings?
Right. And if you have too much kinetic energy, a sudden gust can impart a load that just snaps a spar. That's why we have maneuvering speed. 5s.
Right. The speed at which the plane will stall before it breaks.
Think of it as an energy limit. It's the speed where the wing simply cannot process enough energy to destroy itself. It gives up, it stalls, and dumps the energy before the metal snaps. It's a safety valve.
So even the structural limits are defined by this energy equation.
Everything in aviation is.
This has been a workout for the brain, but I think it's so crucial. So if we boil this down for the student pilot driving to the airport right now, what's the actionable takeaway?
The takeaway is this. Stop looking at your instruments in isolation. Don't chase the needle on the altimeter. Don't chase the needle on the airspeed indicator. Look at the trend. Ask yourself constantly, what is my energy state?
Are you high and fast?
Low and slow?
Or the dangerous ones, low and fast, where you have lots of kinetic energy but no potential if the engine quits? Or high and slow, where you have lots of potential but very little maneuverability? And always remember that drag is the tax man, and he never sleeps.
He is always taking his cut.
Well, looking at our time, we're on final approach here, but I want to leave our listeners with a thought that you brought up that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, we were talking about the fuel gauge.
We established that fuel is chemical potential energy. It's the ultimate source of all the energy we use to fight that drag.
Mm-hmm. It's the ultimate deposit.
And we established that altitude is gravitational potential energy. It's also a storage of energy that you can use to fight drag, for a limited time by gliding.
A temporary storage tank.
So, here's the thought. If you're in an open system that is constantly losing energy to the air, aren't the fuel gauge and the altimeter basically the same instrument?
Think about it. Your fuel gauge tells you how much chemical energy you have left to convert. Your altimeter tells you how much potential energy you have left to convert.
They're both just countdown clocks.
They're both measuring time to impact.
That is dark.
It's reality. If you run out of fuel, you start spending altitude. When you run out of altitude, the fight is over. The only variable is where the flight ends.
So, in a way, climbing to altitude is just refueling with gravity.
It's buying time. Whether that time comes from the tanks in the wings or the height above the ground, it's all just a buffer against the inevitable return to Earth.
I am never going to look at my altimeter the same way again. It's not just feet, it's minutes.
And that's the safest way to see it.
Well, on that existential note, to all the student pilots out there, keep studying, keep flying, and remember, you're not just steering a machine, you are balancing a very cool, very complex equation.
Fly safe.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
That's it for this episode. Keep your wings level, your brain sharp, and catch you next time in the pattern. Thanks for riding with Propeller Breeze.